My name is Aarika and this is Caileigh, and we want to present on body language in college students and how it affects your relationships and communication and how you present yourself in a professional way. Amy Cuddy spoke about how many of her students come into the classroom and they can either be really shut down and not want to answer questions, or they can be really energetic and want to answer questions and raise their hands really high and be ready, even though they can both be equally as competent on the information. So we delve a little deeper into this, and we wanted to look at the nonverbal communications between students and professors. And the study that that I found was by Dustin York, and it said that nonverbal communication between the professor and the student is especially important in strengthening the relationship, and also strengthening the learning of the student, and also their willingness to be present in the classroom. So the stronger that the relationship was towards the nonverbal communication, the stronger they were in the classroom. Some of the things about the nonverbal communications that really helped was strong eye contact between the student and the professor, frequent use of voice fluctuations, avoiding using any object or computer to distance the nonverbal communication, frequent use of facial expressions, and frequent use of hand gestures. So the study found that if you use those things, that you would have a stronger relationship, and have a stronger relationship with the professor and the professor with the student, and that your grades would result in that way, and you'd be more comfortable sharing and participating in a classroom setting.
So to go off what Aarika was saying, it starts in the classroom for you college students. Patrick Miller discussed how it needs to be an in-sync communication between nonverbal cues in the classroom for communication to be at its highest. But we all know that that doesn't always happen. Either the teacher isn't sure how to give nonverbal cues correctly, or the student isn't aware of what they're doing. So it starts with awareness of your nonverbal cues and how to approach the situation. So this is also important for you college students, because outside of the classroom, these habits are going to continue, and you're going to be networking and going through interviews. So being aware of how to approach those situations is important, to know how to react and how to bring nonverbal cues into the environment that you're entering. So Adam Scott discussed this, and he brought up Albert Miller, a pioneer from the 1960s, who discussed nonverbal cues and communication, and that 93% of nonverbal cues are communication and only 7% are verbal. So it's extremely important when you're entering, say, an interview, and in the first 30 seconds, most of the, in the first 30 seconds, that's when most of their interpretation of you comes from. So practicing this in the classroom can really help in those situations, because your habits will form outside the classroom. Also, mock interviews will help, because you're able to see these cues and what they're reading. Some of the key make or break elements that you can bring into a mock interview are going to be eye contact, gestures, posture, and smile and laughter. Adam Scott also talked about how the power of touch can affect an interview. So they did a study where someone left a coin in a phone booth, and when a student would come up and pick it up, the researcher would approach them. The first time the researcher approached them and said, "Hey, is that my coin?" And only 23% said yes to that. But when the researcher approached them later in another way and touched their elbow as they asked the question, or just touched their shoulder, more 70-some% reacted differently and admitted to taking the coin. So in an interview can start with even just a handshake, the way you come into the interview with that. So as Amy and Cuddy discussed, you can fake it till you make it. So as long as you're practicing these in the classroom and in your mock interviews, you can bring that into a situation, and despite your anxiety or anything that day, like taking you away from your preparedness of the interview, you can fake it till you make it and bring in those cues and do them correctly without knowing. So basically, to wrap up our TED Talk today, it starts in the classroom, and practice makes perfect, and you can fake it till you make it. So good luck in your future.